installing TruExterior siding, selecting and installing the right house wrap correctly is very important. This video will show some of the options for a successful installation. In preparation for rolling out the weather-resistant barrier, it's best to establish a level line that will allow the wrap to hang down a minimum of 1/4 inch below the sheathing of the home. Mark off and snap guidelines for the top of the wrap. This will make installation much easier and much more accurate. You can see how the house wrap is going to protect the very edge of the wall sheathing. When installing house wrap into corners, it's best to use a long straight edge to make sure that the house wrap is tight into the corner. As you can see, the bottom of that sheathing is not protected. Many contractors like to step it up a little bit and install a piece of flashing on the bottom of their sheathing. By installing the flashing, one can wrap it up underneath the bottom of the sheathing and even attach it to the foundation, depending on how the house is constructed. This way, water will not be able to penetrate even in a driving rain and saturate the bottom of that wood sheathing.
So when we're setting up our house wrap, one of the things we want to do is make sure that the house wrap drops down below the line of your sheathing, preferably at least 1/4 inch, so water can't, through capillary action, back up underneath it. So this is really the most important thing that you do, is you drop your house wrap down below the sheathing and above the foundation line here to keep water from backing under. Now, if you want to take this up a step better, what you can do before we start with our siding is we'll pull our siding back and we can tape the bottom. We're not trying to trap water underneath. We want to make sure that the water is able to pass around. So let it hang down about 1/4 to 3/8, depending on the thickness of your sheathing. And you want to wrap that underneath, and we're preventing any water from getting to the underside. And then we bring our house wrap down over that. Trim any excess that's hanging off. So now when water comes in, there's just no way water can get at your sheathing. This is a better way to approach it. And if you want yet another way, especially when you're doing the grain siding,
just a simple aluminum L-bend will provide excellent protection from any water that could splash up underneath. It will protect your sheathing. And if you set a dead level, it's an excellent reference line for when you start your siding. Selecting the proper house wrap for TruExterior trim is equally important. You want a drainable house wrap. In this demonstration, we show what happens when water gets behind an installed piece of TruExterior trim. You can see that the water is freely allowed to flow behind it. What's really important with getting started with our siding is to make sure that we have a control line around the entire structure. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a laser up around our entire building, get a common reference line. From there, we build a story pole that will give us all our starting and even our ending points. It can even tell us where the windows are going to be set. So it's important that we get off to a good start. So let's shoot a laser around the building, snap a line on it, and use it as a permanent reference. And then we'll show you how we build our story pole, and we'll be able to get this siding up perfect. Green lasers have better visibility outdoors. The installers are using this laser to set a control line, a dead level line around the entire structure as a reference for setting up the siding. Now to build our story pole, we're going to use this as our reference line. Constantly refer back to this. Keep it down off your soffit a little bit, just in case you're building, if you're working in an old building, it might be off a bit. And we just mark this reference.
And we also want to mark, Tom, could you grab the bottom of the house wrap? Come about 1/4 inch past our house wrap. Down, past, that's it. You want to make a drip edge. You want to make sure that the siding doesn't back up underneath. So we've got our 2 reference marks, and we'll build our story pole.
The first mark on your story pole is the reference line that was made by the laser. Depending on the application, story poles can get pretty busy with all different marks being used. So to prevent confusion, mark it as a reference line and place an arrow to indicate the up position. So to get our start line for our siding, once we've established the lowest point of our structure and we've added a minimum of a 1/4 inch overhang, we'll place our siding at that low mark. This is the TruExterior starter. We place that at the lowest point that we want that on our structure and mark the top of where that starter should be installed. That will be the mark that we transfer to the house to make sure that all of our siding as we go around the entire building will be at the exact same elevation, exactly where we want it. This will allow us to go anywhere on the structure. Just go to that reference line and we can place the top of our starter. It gives us great flexibility when it comes to going around the building. To make it easier to transfer the marks from the story pole and to align everything perfectly, it's good to bring the line around both sides of your story pole. That'll give you a much more accurate reading when you set the story pole to the line and want to transfer. Many sidings, such as TruExterior trim, Craftsman style, or even the starter board, require that fasteners penetrated to framing members at least 1 inch. So making vertical lines on your house wrap to indicate where your framing members are will greatly speed up the installation of TruExterior siding. Story pole to set up our skirt board so that we get an alignment all around our building. And then subsequently, as we lay up our siding, we'll also be able to strike lines for the top of our siding. It's the easiest way to control your job site using a control line and a story pole. So let's set up for our first skirt board. We take it and we set it right on our reference line. Using the story pole method takes the error out of individual measurements. Just walking around using the reference line, marking the top of our starter, we can snap the top row for our siding. So in this case, we go around the entire structure. We can start on any wall and know that our siding will be completely aligned. That's the advantage of using a story pole when we're setting up our weather-resistant barrier.